Hello and welcome to episode 96 of the Blockade Runner podcast. My name is John, and with me today, as always, is Ryan.
Good morning.
And today's episode is going to be mostly about Star Wars Resistance, No Escape, parts 1 and 2. If you've been listening the last few weeks, you know that we did our sort of like back half of Star Wars Resistance episode just a couple episodes back. But that was right before kind of the finale episodes had aired. And so we want to spend some time talking about No Escapes Part 1 and 2, which were really good, but did feature some escapes. But that's we'll get into that when we get there. But before, it's, you know, the title is like not completely accurate, I feel like.
It's a bit of a misnomer, yeah.
There are some escapes. Yeah. But before we get to that, we want to jump into just a couple of news stories, and we'll try to make them relatively quick. But that's not necessarily our specialty, as Obi-Wan Kenobi would say. But we'll work through them. And if you've been listening, again, the last few episodes, you know we've been talking about Star Wars Celebration quite a bit. Can't help it. Too exciting. And like we said last time, if you're going or if you're not, it's going to be a pretty exciting couple of days for Star Wars fans. So a few stories we want to talk about related to that. And the first one is doozy. It's a big one, Ryan. And it's one that I've kind of been hoping for, which is some discussion of how they're going to handle the tens of thousands of fans that all want to get into the same panels, how they're going to deal with crowd management. And they put up a big story about how they're going to do a panel system and a lottery system. And it's going to be kind of handled through the website and the online app. And it all sounds pretty good, I think. I've been to a bunch of celebrations, but very few conventions outside of that. Have you ever been to a convention that uses like this like online kind of crowd management sort of setup at all?
Maybe. But typically the panels that I go to are you can basically just show up 10 minutes before and like get a spot. Maybe not in the front row, but you can get a spot.
Right. Gotcha. Okay, cool. So, and I think that'll be the case really with a lot of the programming at Celebration as well. Mm-hmm. In addition to putting up this story about how they're going to handle the crowds for the panels, they also put up like yesterday or 2 days ago, maybe the full panel schedule, which we'd been waiting for. And I'm really excited is up. But looking through that, it's like, there's actually not that many panels on the Celebration stage. And then even like with the Twin Suns and Galaxy stages, there's only a handful of panels on those stages each day. And like those are the ones that are going to be maybe a little bit difficult or a lot difficult, depending on which ones we're talking about. But those are the ones that are going to be tough to get into. And then you look at like the fan stage and the collecting stage and the podcast stage and like all the other things that are going on. And I don't anticipate those ones are going to be too tricky to get access to. So when it comes to like this whole like crowded panels, like, you know, freaking out about getting into them sort of thing, I don't feel like there's that many that are really going to be a struggle. But the ones that are going to be a struggle are the ones that everybody's like very anxious about. And those are primarily the first ones on the Celebration stage each day. And then some of the more exciting ones, I guess, on the Galaxy and Twin Sun stages. So in any case, the name they're using for this whole program is Lightspeed, you know, which is kind of nice. That makes it fun. It's our Lightspeed panel reservation system. And I'll tell you what, if you check out, which we'll link to in the show notes, but if you check out the story on StarWars.com, it is extensive. It is detailed. And my head was swimming a little bit the first few times I read it. I think I kind of have it worked out now, how it's going to work. Do you feel like you're pretty clear on it these days, or?
I feel like I get it. I feel like we're not going to know how it, like, if it's a good or bad thing until it happens. So there's overall, I think it's, I'm happy with this choice. It like really makes it easy to plan. Because you'll either know, are you going to this panel or are you not? There's no like waiting 12 hours in a line and being like, maybe I'm going to this, maybe not. Like you spend that 12 hours sleeping or hanging out or doing whatever, and like that's cool. I like that. But I feel like we're really not going to know the extent of this until like we actually, sign in and do it. Like, I mean, hopefully everything works. Um, and yeah, I think if it like works the way it's intended, and everything saves and is tied to your account or whatever, like I think it's going to be fine. Like I think
Yeah.
it'll be good. But if there's technical issues, either in the reservation process or on the day of the panel, then I think like, whoops, that sucks. But
Yeah.
like they can't. I mean, this is a trial run for this. Like I'm almost expecting some things to go wrong to a
Well,
degree.
yeah, I mean, for Celebration it is, but Celebration is hosted by Reed Pop, and I know that people have been talking about this for like at least a year, that they thought that Reed Pop might do something like this at Celebration because they've been doing this at other conventions they run.
Oh, okay.
Um, so I don't think it's totally a trial run for Reed Pop, although I don't know if any of the conventions that they do are like approaching the scale of this Star Wars Celebration, which is like the biggest Star Wars celebration ever, and they're already like really big
Yeah.
and tons of people. But that's one thing that makes me really happy is that they're doing the reservations for the celebration stage, and for the streaming of those first panels every day, the celebration panels on the Galaxy and Twin Sun stages. They're doing those from Thursday the 28th through Wednesday the 3rd. So like all of the like signing up for the panels and all that stuff is going to be taken care of like long before you actually get to Celebration. So if it was like, oh, well, you register for Friday's panels on Thursday and Saturday's panels on Friday, like that would be a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I feel like there'd be a lot of room for things to go really badly. But you're going to be, you're going to know, like if what panels you got into. I'm assuming on the 3rd maybe, or the 4th, because you have to claim it by the 5th of April.
Okay. Yeah.
So, I mean, and then I think you get, I don't know if they scan the QR code on the back of your pass or not, since I don't actually have one of those, and you do, and a lot of other people that are going to Celebration do, but I don't have one yet. I don't know why. But I know that
you've been canceled from the fandom.
Maybe I have. I don't know what I did exactly, but maybe I have. I don't know. Yeah. No, I think it's because I ordered badges for my kids like way later, like only like 2 months ago or 3 months ago. So I'm assuming my order's getting fulfilled later because I have like a later order, because I bought my 5-day pass on day one, and I think you did too, and so did Chris and other people I know that have gotten their passes in the mail. And I haven't even gotten an email about when it's coming, and I'm assuming that's because it's got to be, I hope it's got to be because of the late purchase of the kids passes. But I'm going to call them this week if I don't get something soon. So make sure we get it worked out. But I can pick one up at the thing if I have to, if they flub the shipping of my badge or whatever. So I'm not too worried about it, because even if you don't have your badge in hand, you can just use the email address or the confirmation code when you ordered your passes to sign up for these lotteries. So you don't actually have to have the badge, because there's plenty of people.
Nice.
Well, there's a lot of people that are doing will call, I think, or at least some people are doing will call. And then I know like, or I've kind of figured out, it seems like that the podcasters that were chosen for the podcast stage, or people who were chosen to like present panels and stuff, I think they get like a presenter badge. So they probably got refunded if they purchased a 5-day pass or whatever. So then, but I think in that case, they're probably picking them up there rather than having them shipped to them or something. I don't know, but.
Yeah, something that I just saw on Twitter this morning, which kind of sucks for presenters, is that Charlotte from Sky Talkers tweeted that special guest and exhibitor badges are not eligible to participate in the panel lotteries.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That stings. That really stings. That's a bummer for them. That sucks so bad.
Yeah.
Oh man. Ouch time. Okay. Well, so anyway, As far as the panels go, though, we're going to sign up for these panel lotteries like next week, into the following week, and then we're going to find out, the week before Celebration, which ones we got into. So that's cool. What's not so cool is that, like, Ryan, you and I are going with, two of our friends that we're staying with and traveling with or whatever. But then we also have a bunch of other friends that are going to be there. And the way the panel lotteries work is like your badge or your receipt or whatever you want to call it gets entered in to the panel, and then any other passes that you bought on your order can get into that panel with you too. But there's no way for you and I to be like, well, we both want to go to this panel. So that's a little bit of a bummer. I mean, it's good because it would keep families together, So if I had bought one for me and another family member or like a couple people in my family or whatever, this way we'd all get in together. But if if you're just going with other people, or, maybe like my brother's going, okay, we're family, but we didn't buy our passes together.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not getting into the same panels unless we're lucky. You know what I mean? So that's just kind of I don't know. It's just the way it goes. But overall, there's no perfect system they can implement here. So I'm pretty happy with this. I don't want to sleep out overnight, but I was, seriously considering doing it. And in this way, it's just like, if I get in, I get in. If I don't, it's not my fault. And I don't have to like fret about it and freak out about it, So
totally.
So we'll see.
I mean, I guess if none of us get into like any of the panels, like we can just stay at the Airbnb and watch it on a laptop.
We could, although actually, I think what I want to do if we don't get into a morning panel, because you can get in through the lottery. You have to get in for the Galaxy and Twin Sun stages. Even those are lottery too.
Okay.
So like, which just I think goes to show like how many people are going to be there every day, and them knowing that like, hey, we're going to have 50,000 people there a day, but we have 15,000 seats available. So like, we can't even, we've got a lottery the whole thing for the first panel. And those are just made up numbers, but an example of probably what the situation is. But what I would like to do if we don't get into those panels is just get to the convention early, try to get in line to get into the building, because that's a little bit of a struggle, which is also why I think these panels are starting at 11 a.m. instead of 10. Because like the show probably opens at 10 and then there's like nothing happening until 11 because they need that hour just to get all the bodies into the building. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which will be a nightmare on the first day. It always is. But anyways, I would like to get there early and just make a beeline for the Star Wars show stage because the panels will be streaming there as well. And it's really fun. Well, at least last time around, it was really fun to be like at that Star Wars show stage. And then you can even see, like I saw myself in the stream last year, Ryan, which was really fun.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So anyway, boy, the other thing that's a little bit interesting about this whole scenario is that apparently if you don't claim your reservations by midnight Central Time on April 5th, then they get released. And I think at that point, people can grab those reservations or grab those open spots on the app or on the site.
Okay.
Sorry, my kid just let my cat in here, and now he's like all over the microphone and all over me and everything else. So that's why he was
love podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like my two questions I still have is like, what about people who get in the lottery? So someone who actually like they get in the lottery, they get there, they confirm it, whatever, and then they don't show up to the panel. Like, are there going to be people like looking for empty seats? How's that going to go? Or is it just like if you buy a concert ticket and you don't go, like no one gets your seat or anything, or your standing room? Like, I wonder how that's going to go. And then also, like, when you get in the lottery and you get a spot to a panel, do they assign you a seat, or is that still first come, first serve?
There are seating sections. They assign you a seating section, but not an actual seat.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because I saw some people kind of being upset about that, like I'm going to sit next to people I don't know because I didn't buy my pass with somebody else. But you just get assigned to different sections, which if my biggest problem that morning is I'm sitting next to somebody I don't know in the episode 9 panel, like no problem, that's fine.
Yeah, welcome to going to a movie in the
Yeah.
theater.
Yeah, right.
Or riding public transportation.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll see. But yeah, no, that should be okay. But I will tell you this much. I was talking to Chris on the phone yesterday about all this stuff, and like, having been to, I don't know how many celebrations at this point, quite a few. The organizers always have the best intentions as far as like how this stuff is going to work out. And then the convention goers always have the best intentions of breaking those rules and scamming the system. So there will be people there that are figuring out ways to screw this up and like sneak into these panels. And I know like with the 40th anniversary panel, I'm pretty sure, like based on what I read on Twitter and what people were saying at the convention and stuff, that there was a fair number of people who stayed out overnight and didn't get in, and like know that other people like snuck in, or basically like one of their friends spent the night overnight and then somehow they weaseled their way in with that person even though they weren't there. You know what I mean? Like all that kind of stuff. Like people figure out ways to scam.
Oh yeah.
It. So
yeah,
it sucks. And like, I wouldn't do that myself because like I have more respect for the other people at the thing than that, to like try to screw over other people who've worked really hard to get into something. But, you just have to, see what happens, I guess. And then the thing is like, too, like once that first panel is over at the Wintrust Arena at the celebration stage, there's no reservations the rest of the day. So if you get into the first panel, you can stay all day, but also, you can just show up and hope that there's room and get in. So I'm assuming that'll be the case with the first panel too. Like if there's 200, because it's probably like 10,000 people they're going to put in there, I'm assuming, or 8,000 people or something like that. It's an arena. You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot of people. There's got to be at least a couple hundred that had reservations but didn't get, on the bus in time or slept in late.
Yeah.
Or up all night partying or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, so I would assume they're going to let people in. Like,
that's
outside.
what I was saying earlier.
Yeah. Well, because I know they're going to do that with the rest of the panels at the celebration stage throughout the day. So why not do that in the morning too? So you'll have people lined up there at 6 a.m. I'm sure, hoping that they're going to be that person, and just whatever. But
no, I mean, I guess we'll just see. Like, yeah, I can't really say, like, it's impossible to say if this is like a good system, a bad system, or what, until like we see it through to the conclusion.
Yeah. And I think like no matter what happens at celebration, like something's going to make you mad, or like something's not going to work out the way it should. So it's like, well, something about this might not work out perfectly, but guess what? Like when we just lined up and hoped that things went well, like something always didn't work out perfectly then either. So I think seems to me like a better system, and like it's going to be at least take some of the stress out of like not knowing, like you said at the start.
Exactly. Like just peace of mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing that's cool too, that we haven't talked about, we'll just talk about quickly and then move on, is that for the Galaxy and Twin Sun stages, after they stream the first panel of the day, there are other panels that are happening throughout the day have a reservation system, not a lottery system. So as far as I can tell, you can make one reservation per day if there's availability for those stages. So let's say like we really want to go to the Hasbro panel, which is on either Galaxy or Twin Suns. I can't remember which one. You can line up to get into that panel, but a certain number of seats at that panel will also be held for reservation, and anybody can sign up for one a day if there's availability. So it's not like if you're not able to sign up, you can't go. That's not the case, but you can sort of ensure that you get to go to that one panel you really want to be at each day, as long as there's some space available.
Okay.
So I think that's good, because it's like, oh, hey, they announced our lottery and reservation system. And it's like, well, what do you mean reservation? It's a lottery, right? It's like a cross your fingers. But for the smaller panels on Galaxies and Galaxy and Twin Suns, there actually is something of a reservation system if there's availability. So
okay. Yeah.
So that should be nice.
Cool.
Again, because it's like a mix, you know what I mean? That's what I like about it. It's a mix of reservations and, well, you didn't get the reservation, but you can still line up,
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I mean, I definitely like the idea of like just knowing if you're in or not, and not having to like plan like, well, I can't go to these 3 panels because I need to stand in line for 3 hours to maybe get into this panel.
yep,
Like,
totally. Yep, I
yeah.
did that for Star Wars Rebels one year. They were showing the first episode or two of like the next season that was coming up.
Hmm.
And dude, we waited like 5 hours to get into that panel. So it pretty much like our Saturday was gone.
Yeah.
We did a couple things in the morning and then we just like sat in line for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
So kind of sucked, but it was
Hmm.
cool. But it kind of sucked also. Yeah. So okay, other Celebration news. Hayden Christensen is coming to Celebration, which will be cool.
Hmm.
And Ryan, I have a question for you because when you texted me this, you said that he was referred to as the final announcement
Yeah.
for Celebration, but I'm not seeing that anywhere. Where did you see that?
I saw it on Twitter.
Uh huh.
Um, so, oh geez, I
I mean,
don't.
you don't have to find it now. I was just
Yeah.
curious, like if because I'm reading like the press release and stuff, and I don't see anything about him being the final announcement. So I was wondering if that was from an official source or if somebody jumped to that conclusion or something. You know?
It was official ish. I'll keep looking as where.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, this is cool. Like he's showing up, he's doing photos and autographs, but I don't see him listed on any panels anywhere. Like I don't see he doesn't have his own panel, and I was like, oh well, he'd be on the episode one panel, but like, no, probably not. He's not in episode one, so I don't think he'd be on that panel. So it's just one of those things where it's like, oh, I'm excited. I love Hayden Christensen, and it was really cool having him at Celebration in 2017. But I'm not going to pay for his autograph or photo. Like that's not my scene, you know. So
Yeah.
he might as well not be there for me if if all he's doing is the photos and autographs. So, but then the other thing about that is as far as him being the final announcement or the final sort of celebrity or whatever you want to say that's going to be there. It's like, whoa, is Mark Hamill really not coming to Celebration this year? Because I would like to see him on the episode 9 panel, and if he's going to be on the episode 9 panel, I would really think he'd be, um, you know, doing other stuff too. But hey, we've seen the whole schedule now, and he doesn't have any sort of panels of his own, and that's, I mean, he usually always would. So I'm thinking he's not going to be there, which just makes me feel weird. I mean, I've seen him do panels and solo panels and like all kinds of stuff at Celebration in years past. So it's like for me, like it's not so much that like, oh, I really need to go see a Mark Hamill panel because I've done that a number of times. But for me, it's just like it feels weird for him not to be there at this point. Like he's just been to so many now, and he's just such like a fixture, and he's just like such a bubbly and positive like Star Wars, you know, presence that it just makes me feel strange for him not to show up if he's not going to be there.
Yeah, but like there's also, at least for like the major panels, there's also unannounced people who show up.
Yeah.
Like they don't like, you
Oh,
know, put everyone on there.
no, they don't. They absolutely don't. And I mean, like the episode 9 panel, they have barely announced anybody who's going to be on that panel. Pretty much they haven't announced anybody who will be there, you know, and a lot of the cast will be there. So he could be part of that. But it would be weird for Mark Hamill to be at Celebration and not be doing his whole like song and dance that he does, you know, because he's got to be the most popular, probably autograph and photo op. And he's really good at just like, you can just put a chair and a microphone on a stage and then like bring Mark Hamill out and he will just like entertain, you know? So the idea of him being there, but then not having him do a panel just, it seems weird, but I guess it's possible. Or maybe he's not going to show up. I don't know. He's been a little more vocal about being dissatisfied with his the way they've used him in the sequel trilogy. So maybe he's just not feeling it this time, which bums me out. But I guess we'll
I
see.
don't know. I feel like that's a work.
You think so?
I think so.
Oh, interesting.
So okay, so here's what I read. I found it. This is from Darth Von Olin, who is the top Star Wars Authentics guy who's organizing autograph talent for Star Wars Celebration. Um, Hayden Christensen was just revealed as the final autographing and photo op guest of Star Wars Celebration Chicago.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's pretty official then, because like we've mentioned a few times here, the panel schedule is out, and we know who's going to be doing panels and stuff, and I guess we know who's going to be autographing too. So obviously, we're hoping there will be people at the episode 9 and the Mandalorian and the Phantom Menace panels that are not announced for other things. But as far as like full scheduled guests, then I guess Hayden's the last one.
Last autographing guest.
Well, right, but I'm saying, yeah, right. We know there'll be surprise guests, but there won't be any guests at panels that haven't been announced because the panel schedule's out and the autograph and photo panel is out.
The panel schedule's out. A lot of panels still don't have descriptions, and a lot of there are some panels that if you look through the schedule that was released on StarWars.com, there are some panels that like don't have any description at all and are just like follow on the Star Wars app for more information.
Ooh, is that even like on the big stages, like on the Galaxy and Twin Suns?
I believe so.
Okay, interesting. Well, like I said, we're really hoping for people like, Rick McCollum, but like the whole cast of Episode 9 and a bunch of cast members from Phantom Menace, and hopefully like you got to figure Jon Favreau is going to be. I think they've announced him, haven't they, for that Mandalorian panel? When they announced the Mandalorian panel, that Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau would be there. But there's going to be big names at all those panels that just won't do anything else the whole weekend. So, and that's cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Another thing real quick, ILM X Labs Vader Immortal will be at Star Wars Celebration. There's going to be a panel for that, and that's exciting. For me, it's more like, it's less like I want to hear about it from David S. Goyer and the other people working on it, no disrespect to them, but more like I'd like to put one of those headsets on and like try it, and they're going to have, they're bringing an interactive preview of the game to Celebration, and it's going to run so the panel is on Friday at 1:30, and then after that the preview is supposed to run throughout the remainder of Celebration, so it's going to be going on the rest of Celebration. But in my experience, that's the kind of thing that is also going to have a pretty long wait associated with it. I think it was in Anaheim. Would it have been Anaheim or Orlando? I think it was Anaheim. There was like a Battlefront demo going on, and man, that line was like 4 hours if you want to play 10 or 15 minutes of this PlayStation game that's coming out later in the year, so
yeah.
The idea of like how long the line would be to try this VR experience, hard to say, but I think it could be lengthy, so we will see.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a panel I want to go to. It's most likely, if the panel ends and I'm interested in it, I will probably just be like, cool, I'm going to buy that. And then that'll be it. I don't know. VR, public demos are cool. They're also kind of weird and gross because you're putting on a helmet that someone just used before you and hundreds of people have used before you. And it goes right on your face. And they just use a Clorox wipe on it before, because I did the PSVR demos a few times at Best Buy's, and I don't know, it was always kind of weird.
Yeah.
And also people watch you sit in a chair and move your head around and stuff. I don't know. There's a lot of comfort there.
I think I could go for it. I did one with the Nissan booth. They had one at the last Celebration because they did a little VR experience with their tie-in with Star Wars, and it was pretty cool. But I mean, I can feel for you, Ryan, you have a VR helmet, you know what I mean? So you can do VR sometimes and kind of get that feeling. Whereas for me, I've almost never done any legit VR. So it's one of those things too. It's I've never done any Star Wars VR anything except for that Nissan thing, which was you're driving a car and there's stormtroopers around you, which was cool, but I don't think quite the same thing. So to me, it's a little more exciting just because it's what would it be like to do Star Wars VR, because I've never really done it.
It's good.
Yeah, right. Like if I could go home and like put on my helmet for my PS3 or PS4, I mean, and just do that like Battlefront mission thing that you've done, I'd be like, okay, well, I can wait for the Darth Vader thing. But
Yeah,
for me, it's like I can't. I've never, you know what I mean? So it's just a little more exciting in that regard.
for sure. Yeah.
Last thing, well, it's not really celebration related, but a little bit
No,
of
I put it in the celebration.
yeah, that's fine.
It's in resistance.
We got a little update on Black Spire by Delilah S. Dawson,
Mhm.
coming out later this year. So what are we thinking on this one, Ryan?
I'm thinking this book is going to be awesome. So here's the synopsis. After devastating losses at the hands of the First Order, General Leia Organa has dispatched her agents across the galaxy in search of allies, sanctuary, and firepower. And her top spy, V. Murati, may have just found all three on a secluded world at the galaxy's edge. So, and there's more in the synopsis, but that kind of sets it up. So this is V or Vi. I'm not actually sure how to say it, but it's the spy character from the bookend portions of Delilah S. Dawson's Phasma novel, which I think we are both kind of in agreement that those were like the best parts of the book.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's taking place after The Last Jedi, correct?
Yeah, it seems like it. I mean, that's like what's really intriguing about it is it says after taking devastating losses from the First Order. Well, I don't think they'd really taken devastating. I mean, they could explain it away. They could be like, oh, well, the Resistance had a couple of ships out on wherever, and Leia was trying to argue to the Republic that they needed more support because the First Order attacked. They just took out 4 of our X-wings, or you know what I mean. Whatever they could spin it that way, but the way it's phrased there really makes it seem like it must be after Starkiller Base and the Battle of Crate and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah. So, no, this is just really exciting. The cover looks amazing. I really
Sorry, and
art.
dispatch your agents across the galaxy in search of allies, sanctuary, and firepower. That's like totally after The Last Jedi. It seems like, right? I mean, that's what happens at the end of The Last Jedi to
Yeah.
a certain extent.
Well, yeah, like I mean, she doesn't really like dispatch agents at the end of
Well,
Last Jedi. She puts out a distress call, but maybe that's part of it.
well, they're in need of allies, sanctuary, and firepower after The Last Jedi, and they're just escaping from Crate at the end of the movie. But I guess it really feels like that's what she would do next. Is like we have 40 people on this ship. We're going to send a couple of you this way, a couple of you this way, a couple of you this way, and like try to disperse and let's see if we can get something cooking here.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, the cover is great, as you said. And it certainly sounds like, because there's always the fear if you read a book like this, it's like, oh, is it just a book that's going to like kind of tell me about this, like advertise this place I'm going to go visit? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But the way it's described here really makes it sound like an exciting and relevant and important story to kind of the sequel era timeline, which is what would make me most excited to read a new Star Wars book.
Yeah. So the book comes out August 27th, and then Galaxy's Edge opens May 31st in Disneyland and August 29th in Disney Hollywood Studios in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be sandwiched right between those two openings.
I'm hoping at Celebration at the Del Rey panel that we're going to hear about a Journey to Episode 9 type book program like we had for Force Awakens and Last Jedi. And I wonder if this could end up being part of that, and if it doesn't say anything about that on here, and maybe because of the Galaxy's Edge branding, they wouldn't want to make it, tied to that necessarily. But at the same time, like they haven't even revealed the name of Episode 9 yet. So if there's going to be like a little banner across the top of this cover that says Journey to
Return of the Jedi 2.
Yeah, Journey to Return of the Jedi 2, they can't put it on there yet, because we don't know what it's called. So that's something to consider as well.
For sure.
Okay, I have 2 quick Mandalorian stories here. neither of which are too meaty or require too much commentary from us, but I think they're fun. Number one, Kevin Yost, who is on Twitter at Trailer Dude. Follow him for his updates on all things Star Wars, and it's just cool, knowing this is the guy that cuts together most of the Star Wars trailers. Definitely all the animation trailers, but I think he works on the feature film trailers as well. But Kevin Yost at Trailer Dude tweeted about the Mandalorian panel and said that Celebration will be an event long remembered. And I think we all assumed with them doing a Mandalorian panel that yes, we're going to see some Mandalorian footage, but this guy puts together some pretty fist pump inducing, like, awesome Star Wars trailers, and he's like, hey, check this panel out. So I think that's essentially confirmation that we're going to get a really good look at Mandalorian and a well put together trailer as well.
Yeah,
not just some like scraped together highlight reel or something, but like a legit panel with like great music and dynamic editing, and just it'll be really fun. So that is cool. I'm excited for that. Really excited for that. And then also Jon Favreau posted on Instagram an image of Taika Waititi doing ADR on The Mandalorian. And the image that he's looking at on the screen is IG-88, or at least an IG-88 style droid. So the popular opinion is, oh, whoa, he's voicing IG-88, which he might be. But then my thing is like, well, he's going to watch a scene play out as he's doing ADR. So just because IG-88 is on that screen doesn't mean that he's doing the voice of IG-88. Like, he might be playing a character in that scene that's interacting with IG-88. And Favreau just didn't want to put that character up there, so put it there with posted the image with IG-88 on the screen instead of whoever Taika's character is.
Yeah, and there's other IG droids out there as well. Yeah. I actually like, I could not answer the question of, is IG-88 alive in like this time period? I have no idea. Like, wait, this
depends on if Shadows of the Empire is canon or not.
Yeah, no, this is pre A New Hope.
Yeah.
Right? What is Mandalorian?
No, it's after. It's after the
Return of the Jedi?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Jeez. There are like way too many timelines happening right now.
There's really only two. There's before the original trilogy and after the original trilogy. Well, I guess there's three: before original trilogy, after original trilogy, after sequel trilogy.
Yeah.
But what's after the sequel? Actually, no, there's not. There's two. Before OT, after OT. That's it.
Okay.
In between Last Jedi and Episode 9. I guess that's your other timeline.
Sure. Okay. With that said, I still don't know if IG-88 is alive. I don't know. I don't know what IG-88 has been up to in the new canon. He got up to a lot in Legends. I don't know. So it could be another like droid in that style. But then also there's this like the helmet that's sitting there as well. Yeah. Which like it's gold and red. It looks like. I don't know if that's just the way the lighting's making it look. But
no, I think you're right. I think it's gold and red.
Okay, it's really dinged up. Very it looks like a Mandalorian helmet.
Yeah, but then my thing is like, that's probably just there to look cool. You know what I mean? Just like to remind everybody like this is the show we're working on or whatever. More than anything else. But I guess maybe they were like, hey, we want you to like look at your helmet while you're doing voiceover just so you like remember who you are, maybe.
Yeah. Grandfather. It is also really awesome. I didn't know that. I knew Taika Waititi was directing an episode, and I don't know if he was writing the episode, but I know he definitely was directing an episode of The Mandalorian. I didn't know he was going to be voicing.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I don't know if that was ever confirmed or anything. I mean, like I'm saying, he might be full on acting in that scene. You know what I mean? like he might not be voicing a CG character or whatever. He might be like, playing a character that's, walking around and doing whatever. Because I know people like Bryce Dallas Howard is directing an episode, and a lot of people assume that maybe she'll be acting in that episode or other
Mhm.
episodes as well, but I don't think they've really confirmed that kind of thing. So, but with Taika, it could be a very similar situation. Maybe definitely he's doing some kind of acting. It could be just like ADR for a robot, or he might be playing a character in the show too. So,
Yeah, that's really exciting because he is one of the legit funniest dudes in the world. So,
yeah,
and
yeah,
he's an amazing actor, writer, and director. So,
right on.
super excited.
Cool. Okay, well, I think that's going to wrap up news, and then we're going to jump into our discussion of Resistance, No Escape, parts 1 and 2. Mostly probably focus on 2, a little more than 1, but I don't think we ever talked about that episode either, and they really are just kind of one long episode split into 2.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll kind of talk about them together. Obviously, we're going to totally talk spoilers, and we're not going to hold anything back, so I would imagine you've either watched them or you don't care that much. But if you do care and somehow you have not watched them yet, be warned, we will be spoiling these episodes, which are really good, and you should watch them one way or the other. As No Escape Part 1 opens up, the Colossus has been put under martial law, basically, like as a result of Kaz and the good guys sort of sinking the Colossus and putting most of it underwater. The First Order uses that as their excuse to say everybody's sort of confined to their rooms and you're locked indoors and we're taking over. And I just think it's interesting because it's like you're seeing like the fascist element of the First Order kind of on display, almost more than we've seen it in the movies. It's like this cartoon is like really clear about the First Order kind of mirroring the actions and behaviors and policies of like actual historical fascist regimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's pretty cool in a cartoon that seems to be targeted towards like 6-year-olds.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean also mirroring the actions of the Empire. Like if the stormtroopers didn't, you know,
Make it
like
clear that the
yeah,
Empire is fascist.
and First Order like using that imagery by also having stormtroopers that are called stormtroopers. I think like these actions are very Empire-esque. They've kind of completely at this point like they've just given up on that line of like, oh, we're doing this to keep you safe. Like that was, obviously false to begin with. But at this point, like they're not keeping anyone safe. They're controlling.
Yeah.
Like
Totally.
they don't care if these people live or die.
Totally. And Pyre has a line in there too where he says to Doza, like, well, remember you invited us here,
Mm-hmm.
And it's sort of like once they're like vampires, you know what I mean? Like once you give them that invitation, they're in, and then you're screwed. So,
Yep.
yeah, it's good stuff. As the episode goes on, we have a scene stealing moment with Flix and Orca, who I really love these characters. I think I've talked about it a couple times previously, but I really, really love these two characters. They're hilarious to me. Bobby Moynihan and Jim, I think his name, I forget the actor's name. He's hilarious. He's really good. I wish I had not just done that, but he's great. And anyway, together they're fantastic. Bobby Moynihan will be at Celebration, so that's kind of fun. Probably at the Resistance panel, so that'll be great. But yeah, they're hilarious, and they have this moment where they're like hiding in a shipping container and they're getting shipped off to one or the other's mother's house, planet, whatever. Like we're gonna go stay with his mom,
Yeah.
And it's just played so well. The thing is so funny.
Yeah.
So I love that moment.
And they're like, "Fine, we'll scoot over. You can come in."
Yeah, you can hang out in this shipping container with us. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, hopefully they're on the Colossus. I would assume they must be. They have to be. So we'll see more of them in season 2. But yeah, man, they were great. Another thing I wanted to mention here is that I was watching this episode, No Escape Part 1, and my youngest son, Elliot, who is 5, just like unprompted, out of the blue, just like we were just watching it, and he looked at me and he was like, Kaz is my favorite character from this show, And I was like, yeah, see that? Like, he's a great character, and he's totally Kaz is totally working, I think, for the primary audience he's supposed to work for. He works for me pretty well too, but I think, like, for he's supposed to be that character that kids can relate to, and kids will kind of see themselves in and stuff. And totally, my youngest son kind of validated that, I think, as we were watching this. So that was a fun moment for me.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he's wrong, but that's still cool.
He's wrong that Kaz is his favorite character.
Yup. Let me break it down, kid.
Yeah. Okay. And then basically we get to the end of the episode. I mean, there's a lot of other things that happen, but we're not here to just like, summarize the episode, but more talk about what was interesting from it. And I think at that point, we get to the end, which is the Star Killer Base moment, which I've been kind of looking forward to since the part 2 trailer, season 1 part 2 trailer came out. And we knew that Star Killer Base, or at least, how am I forgetting the guy's name now?
Hux?
Yeah, Hux.
General Hugs?
General Hugs. Yeah, that his fascist speech again would be delivered. Which, by the way, like, on that whole fascist tip, as it were, we see the stormtroopers do the whole, like, fist in the air thing in The Force Awakens, but they totally do it, like, and it's emphasized here in Star Wars Resistance as well. It's like, man, this is some scary, like, yeah, you get it. It's fascist, it's scary, and they're not backing away from that or shying away from that in this children's cartoon. So I like that. But yeah, we get that moment. We get to see, Hux deliver that speech. We see the destruction of Hosnian Prime, which, not sure logistically how the camera crew would be like covering that for the First Order broadcast necessarily, but it works. But I thought that moment was great. What did you think about that the way that was executed?
Yeah, no, it was cool. Like, I think, like, I get why they showed that part in the trailer. I kind of wish it would have been a surprise, because, like, I knew it was coming, and I was like, oh yeah, here's this part. And they showed it in a preview for the episode too. So, like, I'd seen that part twice before seeing it in the episode. So then I was like, oh, it's this part. Like, well, it didn't really have, like, an impact, but what we did see was Kaz's reaction for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah, and you actually see it twice if you watch, like, once you watch No Escape Part 2, you see it again.
Yeah.
Well, so, like, you saw it twice before you watched the episodes, and then once you saw the episodes, you saw it 2 times as well. Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, I mean, the point of having it there is because of what it means to Kaz, I think, which that was really well done. Christopher Sean was great, and it was a powerful moment, a really emotional moment. But I think at the same time, it's like, because you hear valid criticism of, like, A New Hope and stuff like that. It's like, okay, Leia's whole planet was destroyed, everyone she'd ever known, and then she just moves on from it, and, like, she's more concerned about Luke than she is, like, all that stuff is valid. But at the same time, it's like, well, what kind of movie are we making, or what kind of story are we telling, or what kind of medium are we working in? And this is a children's cartoon, so I think they did a really good job of, like, that moment has weight, it has emotion, the performance is good. It's a powerful moment, but at the same time, it's like, okay, well, basically the rest of the season, or, like, the next 10 episodes should be about, like, the emotional impact on Kaz if you want to, like, handle it realistically. And I don't think you do in a cartoon. I think you want to just, like, sort of stop and pause and demonstrate, like, what impact it would have on Kaz and how emotional that would be for him. But then also, like, continue creating a fun, cartoon and keep the action going and excitement going. And then we see in part 2 of this episode, there is another moment after they, like, because Tora says to him, like, you know what, this is, like, awful, but we have to keep moving. Like, we have to do that right now. And she's right. And then when they help Doza and Yeager get out of their cell, there's, like, another great moment with Yeager, where he kind of puts his hand on Kaz's shoulder and tells him how sorry he is. And I think they just did a really good job of balancing, like keeping the plot moving, keeping the excitement moving, and then also kind of taking the time to kind of, you know, um, demonstrate the emotional weight of what just happened.
Yeah, and I also think people criticizing both Hosni and Prime, which also was criticized in Force Awakens, because like it's like these planets just got blown up and like people are like, whoa, that sucks, and then like move on. And like, there's more of a reaction to like from the characters to like Han Solo's death. But I think like also something to consider, we don't know how the human mind would react to a planet being destroyed. Like we don't know what that looks like or feels like. Like I don't know what it's like to be in a spaceship orbiting Earth and then like see it just like explode. Like I don't
Well,
know. Like what does your brain even do? Like it just looks like a video game. Like
yeah, sure. I mean, I think you'd feel pretty bad. I'm pretty sure you would. I think you would. But like that's even like kind of, to me it's like sort of removed from the point though, which is that this is like a space fantasy, and like it's just not, I don't know. Realism is not the point, you know what I mean? And so I don't know. It's like it is part of the formula for Star Wars, I think, is that
mhm.
you focus on the characters you're following. And I mean, honestly, like Luke Skywalker destroying the Death Star, that should be like probably like a life altering, like he should be struggling with the consequences of that for the rest of his life. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and instead, he just killed millions of people with one blast. You know what I mean? Like it's an awful thing. It's horrible if you think about it. And it's not like this is it's a space fantasy. It's that is the fist pumping moment at the end of A New Hope, because we know we're not dealing in anything close to reality. It's
Yeah.
just fun. You know what I mean? And so uh, I don't know. I like the Hosnian Prime thing. It's like, yeah, I maybe they could have handled it a little better. Maybe they could have like demonstrated the weight of that. I mean, I think the problem with Hosnian Prime in The Force Awakens is that you don't really understand what it even means, like as far as the Republic, and
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger issue than like the people don't give it, or the characters don't give it the emotional like weight it deserves, because
Mhm.
it's just not their story. And like I said, it's we've seen precedent for this in A New Hope and in other Star Wars movies, and it's just kind of the way Star Wars storytelling works. And I think it's um, how it should work. It's just what the formula for Star Wars is. So
Yeah, I
um,
mean, please look forward to my 9-hour YouTube video of plot holes in No Escape Part 1,
yeah,
where I go deep into this. No, I think like there's a time and a place. Like, I mean, what you were saying about like the Death Star, like, um, once you like, it's absurd to go like too deep into it because like then you get the conversation from Clerks where like Dante and Randall are talking about like union workers and stuff like on the second Death Star. Like it's if you think about it too hard, like it's uh you know,
well,
whatever. But I also think there is a place for those stories, and like I like wouldn't hate like if someone wrote a novel about like people on Hosnian Prime prior to the attack. Like do that in a novel, like give us like the full picture, the emotional weight. And that's one of the cool things about Star Wars is like you can do that and you can tell that story in another medium. But for the point of the um you know movie or um animated series, like there's just like you were saying, like we can't just spend all this time to like on Kaz reacting to it
yeah,
and
yeah.
like the emotional weight.
100%. It's about the medium, understanding the strength
Yeah.
of each medium or whatever. So like if they wanted to put out even for Resistance, if they wanted to put out like a series of, they did this with Rebels. They had these Jason Fry actually wrote them. I can't remember exactly what they were called, but he had a series of like middle grade or whatever like novels. And they didn't like tell the events of of Rebels so much as they were like stories that supported
The,
it. But
they were like the journals, like Sabine's journal
no, no,
and
no. Well, yeah,
Ezra's journal.
he did those, but he had a whole series of books about that character. I forget the name of the kid that.
Oh, the Empire kid,
Yeah, the one that was in
the
the
Imperial
training program
Academy.
with,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah,
his
yeah.
brother, what was it like Zaire? No,
I don't
something with a
remember.
Z was his name. I forget now.
I
But
never read those.
yeah, I didn't read them either. Sorry, Jason Fry. I wanted to. They
Yeah,
look good.
yeah.
And
I
I
love
like that
Jason
kid.
Fry. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I mean, if they wanted to do a series like that of books for Resistance, and kind of flesh that moment out more in something like
Mm-hmm.
that, I think that'd be great. It's just like not. This is not the right medium, and this is not the, yeah, kind of the place for that, I think. So, but we've hammered this point kind of well enough, I think, at this juncture. But the other thing I wanted to point out too that just I thought was fun and kind of interesting is the way that if you watch No Escape Part 1 and 2 back to back, you see that Starkiller Base moment twice, and it's like you see it from different camera angles and stuff in the second episode, at the beginning of part 2. So it's a little bit of a weird feeling, like watching it play out at the end of episode 1 and then watching it play out again at the end of episode 2, but you're seeing it like from different angles and stuff. And to me, it's just like it's that feeling you get like if you've ever seen a sequel to a movie where in the opening of the second movie they kind of like show the events of the end of the first movie again. I think they've done that. Like, don't they do that a little bit in Back to the Future movies? Um, it's been a while since I've really paid close
Yeah.
attention to any Back to the Future movies. I know they did it in the beginning of Halloween 2,
Mm-hmm.
where they kind of show the end of the original Halloween, and there's some footage from the original movie there that's the same, but then there's stuff that's reshot, and it's just kind of like a weird deja vu inducing feeling, like when you see something from two different angles like that. So, and you can notice like the tiny little differences or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of cool. And that's where you get the stormtroopers like doing the fist thing more so in the
Mm-hmm.
second episode. So it had some value, but yeah. Let's see what else. Niku's great in both episodes. He's hilarious in
Mm-hmm.
both. And I think I don't know how you feel, Ryan. I feel like when Niku and Kaz like have their scenes together and Niku's being really ridiculous, it kind of helps Kaz be a little more likable because he can be a little more mature and more like he can be the one that's like not slipping on banana peels in those scenes because Niku's
Mm-hmm.
handling the comedy part.
For sure. Yeah.
So that's good. There's also the sequence where Niku and I think Kel are down there in the engineering room, like deciding which doors to open and close, like so they can flush out the stormtroopers. Um, which Nico gets really excited about that. He's like, "Oh my god! Like we're gonna murder these stormtroopers by drowning them in the ocean. Like this is gonna be so much fun." Which I don't know. I thought was funny
Mm-hmm.
and weird. But my thought as I was watching that scene is like, man, they need Ray from Jakku working these doors, because
Mm.
in that Rathtar sequence,
Yeah.
she was on it. She knew exactly when to close that door, and Nico and Cal seem to be just sort of blindly stabbing at the
Mm-hmm.
buttons, hoping it'll work out. So
Mm-hmm. Lucky.
yeah. So maybe the force is on their side, and they didn't quite realize it. Similar
Hey.
to Ray, but not quite as strong with them, I don't think. Um, there's the whole tyranny Tam sort of subplot going
Mm-hmm.
on in both of these episodes, and I think that's really really good. And
Yeah. For me, this was like the part that was, this was the unknown part of the episode. This was where like I felt the most drama was with this subplot. Because like we knew, I mean, we knew Hazian Prime was happening. We knew like, they had released an image prior to these episodes of like a bunch of people from the crew like standing all together. So like we knew that like Jaeger and Kaz reunited, and like we knew who was like there, and but then like there was the like who isn't there. So then it's like who, you know, who doesn't make it or who goes somewhere else. And so I think the Tam, um, are is she going to stay on the with the Colossus crew, or is she going to um go with Tierney and the First Order? And I think like going into this episode, I had like very strong opinions about it. I really thought like the most interesting thing they could do is to have Tam go with Tierney. Like that is what's going to be the best for the story. It's not like the happiest choice, but it's I think what would make for the most interesting story. And especially with all the seeds they had planted, especially in the back half of the season, with her um, her growing frustrations with Jaeger and Kaz, her, talk about like, her grandfather's role in the Empire to put food on the table. And like, just because you say someone's an enemy, like, doesn't really mean they are, like all that stuff. Like it would have felt like a huge missed opportunity if she was like, okay, guys, I'm coming back with you. Like, so I was really like tense about this because I wanted that to happen so bad, which is weird to say. Like, I wanted this character to not join the First Order, but to go with the First Order. But then when it finally happened, like that scene was super cool. Like her, making the choice and then getting on the ship with Tierney, that made me really happy. And we'll get to this when we talk like predictions and wants for season 2. But that was like the biggest unknown for me, and I was really excited when it like went the way that I was hoping it to go.
So I'm trying to remember our conversation from the last episode we did about Resistance, but was I kind of on record being like, nah, she's not going with, like, was I sort of downplaying that? Like I thought it wasn't going to happen? Because now that I've seen it, I'm like, oh yeah, of course it's like I probably always knew it would be the most interesting thing to happen, but I think part of me was like, oh, it's a kid show. They're not going to have like this character go with the bad guys. Like it won't. I don't know. I don't remember if I said that or not, but after watching it and after hearing what you just said, for both of those reasons, like yeah, totally, like this is for sure the best thing. And honestly, it's probably like the best part of this whole 2-part episode, which is kind of what you were saying, I guess. But
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's just like it's because everything else is sort of expected, for instance, like the fact that the Colossus leaves Castellan and is going to be somewhere else in season 2. That is so cool and so exciting. But at the same time, like once Niku was like, oh, that's a hyperdrive, it was like, well, the jig is up. You know what's going to happen.
Totally.
You know what's going to happen. And this Tierney Tam stuff, like the will she, won't she, I feel like they could have done it in a way that was too exaggerated or stylized or whatever, and it would have been cartoony. And I don't think it is at all. Like I thought it was, I don't know if subtle is the right word, but they played it in a pretty realistic way, and they totally like left me guessing all the way up until the end of which way was she going to go, And there's just little moments, like little things they did. Like there was a scene where Tierney was like, come on, Tamara, let's go, to wherever we're going. I can't remember where. And she got kind of like, I can't remember. She like put her hand on Tam's shoulder or sort of reached her hand out to Tam, like, come with me. And Tam was like, I'm not touching you, kind of, if she didn't say anything, but she just I don't know. Like they did a really good job of building the whole, like, Tam feels betrayed by her friends and she respects the First Order, but at the same time she can feel like there's something not right here, and they kept like just sort of building that in a way that made a lot of sense and was pretty realistic. And so like all the way until the end, I don't know what she's going to do. But yeah, it's so much more interesting now for her to be with the First Order and then like there's going to be some battle in season 2 between the First Order and the crew of the Colossus, and they're going to come face to face probably as enemies, and then there's the opportunity to try to win her back, and then there's like, now we have one of our own characters like embedded with the First Order, so like that's a whole nother opportunity for like a point of view. Potentially, I don't know if they'll really kind of do point of view sequences and scenes from Kaz's perspective or Tam's perspective, but they could, and that'd be really interesting.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool. So let's see. Oh, okay. So then as we get close to the end of the episode, we have well, okay. Well, one more thing about the Tierney Tam stuff. In that moment when it was like, is she going to go with Tierney or won't she? Tierney was like up on the First Order ship, and she's like reaching her hand out to Tam. And number one, I thought the Yeager stuff was like really powerful in that moment. Like, it was really cool to see Yeager like so desperate to get Tam not to like make that choice and to stay with him. I thought that was really good. But then also, I thought it was really smart the way they had Kaz and Tora up on that balcony. And I don't doubt that it was intentionally recalling The Force Awakens when Rey and Finn are up on the balcony, like looking down at Han and Kylo Ren. I totally got those vibes from that. And I guess it could be just like a coincidence or whatever, but to me, it really felt like they were recalling that moment. And I like that because that's like a tragic moment, and obviously Han is killed there by Kylo Ren, and so seeing them up there, I was like, are they setting it up for Kaz and Tora to see Yeager killed the same way Rey and Finn saw Kylo killed, and obviously they didn't, but I thought that was really smart and really well done.
Yeah. Well, they didn't this season.
Right. True. Yeah. Actually, I was watching with my kids this morning, and Owen was like, do you think that guy with the beard is going to die in the next season? And I was like, I don't know. He could, but I don't think he needs to. So
yeah,
we'll see. Okay. So we're approaching the end of the episode. We've got one of my favorite moments of season 1, which is Hype Phazon and especially Aunt Z showing up. And Aunt Z just being up there in that gun turret.
Yep.
Don't forget about Aunt Z.
That was great.
Was not a great Scottish accent, but yeah, no, it was super good. So that part was great, and it's really fun to have them back. I kind of thought maybe we'd end up meeting up with them on Takodana rather than them returning, but it was definitely cool to see them come back that way. And then so I guess the episode pretty much ends with like a sort of a space battle or dogfight type sequence, and it brings everything together. It brings the Aces pilots, Kaz and Yeager and Tora, the First Order, and the pirates all back together. So it all kind of comes full circle here in this final moment. And what did you think about that, Ryan? What did you think about like bringing everything together in that one sequence?
I like it. There still was like a point like I want to know, is Griff the dude who's like the ace pilot,
the Steven Stanton voice dude with the Imperial tattoo?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if that's his name or not, but I know who you're talking about.
Okay, I think it's Griff. I don't know.
Griff Hannaran or something like that. Halloran or something. Yeah.
Great.
Hey, you asked.
I love Star Wars. Yeah, like there's still like I don't know. I think like I get it. Like there wasn't enough time, and it wasn't really the point of the story to tell more about like those aces and everything. But like it's kind of weird that like the dude who's like all decked out in like the equivalent of like Confederate flag tattoos and everything is like, yeah, I'm gonna take down these guys who are pretty much exactly like the people that I idolize.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I see what you mean. To me, I read it as like there's some story there for why that guy used to be loyal to the Empire and now he's not anymore. But that opens it up to a whole nother level of criticism, which is like, you have this intriguing possibility that has not been in any way acknowledged at all. Like, it's not only that they haven't done an episode about it, they have not acknowledged it in any capacity. So
Yeah.
it's like, especially in a kid show, it's a little bit weird. Like, why is this guy who's a good guy have this like tattoo? Like, you'll never see that guy on screen without seeing his Imperial insignia tattoo,
Mm-hmm.
but there's like zero like acknowledgement of that, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think it's a big problem or anything, but I see what you mean. But to me, it's like, okay, Tam goes with the First Order at the end of this episode. I don't think she will live the rest of her life as a First Order soldier, but she may become one for a while, you know? And so the story of like what happens with her as a First Order troop, and then like what would happen to kind of remove her from that, or kind of sour her on that, and who she would become afterwards. That seems like the kind of story that there probably is with this Griff fellow, but we just don't know anything about it yet.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, there's two of those stories happening in Resistance, because there's also Doza
and Yeager. I mean, not with the First Order, but with the Resistance, and sort of like what happened with him to like. Yeah. Well, I guess we kind of know though, don't we?
I feel like Yeager's. I think it's like what it's more interesting, like Doza's, you know, Imperial uniform, and Griff, who I'm just calling him Griff at this point. I don't know if that's his name. His, you know, tats and everything. Like, yeah, I don't know. It's, yeah, maybe a missed opportunity, maybe just something we're gonna get later. Like,
yeah,
you know, this is an ongoing series. Like, they don't have to explain everything in the first season. They don't have to explain everything as well. Like, it's art, it's entertainment. Like, it's not like a Wikipedia entry.
Ambiguity is good, especially in Star Wars. Yeah.
Then going back to your original question, Pirates returning was cool. I mean, we kind of knew it was happening. I'm glad. I think we talked in like, and I don't know if this was in text or like in the episode that we recorded, but like, you know, I know you said that there's a chance that we don't see Sonara again, and like that story's over. Did you say that? Was that you, or was that another podcast?
Maybe I was just probably wishful thinking if I said it, because I don't really like the Pirates and Sonara personally. But
see, I think like the Pirates are super important to this story, and I think that they're really compelling, like their role in the whole thing, because they got swindled by the First Order, and I think, you know, how people like the Pirates react to everything that's happening. Like, I think that's another cool perspective to have within Star Wars. And, you know, if it's happening in this show, like, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, on paper, that sounds good. I just don't really like I don't know. I don't feel much connection or interest to Sonara for some reason. I know a lot of people really like her, so that's good. But the other pirates are fine, I guess. But just none of them I find that interesting on a like as far as characters go. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially like comparing them to like say Hondo Anaka. You know, like, there is a pirate I'm interested in because he's a bad guy, but he's also really likable. You know, and it's sort of like a will he, won't he do the right thing sort of thing all the time. You know what I mean? Whereas like I feel like with these pirates, it's like, well, they're all just kind of gruff and like not super interesting, except for Sonara. But like now you pretty much know Sonara is always a good guy. So I don't know. I mean, it's fine. I just like for whatever reason, it's like if there's a certain planet, you just like, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, but I just don't really like jive with it. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. Like that's just how I feel about the pirates. I don't know. They're just there for me. And when they showed up at the end of this sequence, it was kind of like, well, you got to do it because you got to get them off the island or off the planet. I mean, and you're bringing everything else from the season back into this one sequence. So you kind of have to bring them back. But I just felt like I don't care about them being here. And I don't I don't know. It's like they show up to like battle the First Order, I guess, because they're mad at the First Order, but like they've also been this group that's been like terrorizing the Colossus the whole time. But now they're just gonna like land on the Colossus and go party with them on, whatever new planet they go to. And I guess there's the opportunity that whenever they get wherever they're going next season, it'll be like tension between them and and the people that live on the Colossus. That would make sense. So maybe that'll be good. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think that they're taking some direction from Sonara at this point, and like maybe there's been conversations, on their pirate ship about like what they should be doing with their lives. And I mean, who knows? But like they definitely seem to be led by Sonara in this sequence, and I think that's pretty interesting. I think I like Sonara a ton as a character. I think she's really really cool, and as complex of a character as we get on this show. And I also like the possibilities, which you just kind of mentioned, of like just different perspectives and different dynamics on this ship. I think like that's what, when people are like stranded together with a problem, like the more diverse the group of people is, the more interesting it is. Like if Lost had just been a whole bunch of people like Jack and Kate, like that wouldn't have made for a very interesting show. But because you had people who were so different and had so many different like agendas and histories, like that's what makes those kind of stories interesting.
Yeah, I get what you mean. My counterpoint, I guess, or like kind of where my experience with Star Wars cartoons goes, is like, to me, it's like, oh well, the whole Mandalorian like plot and stuff in Star Wars Rebels is really interesting because it adds this other complex layer and stuff. But like every time there was an episode about the Mandalorian stuff happening on Mandalore and everything, it was just kind of like, man, I like this show for the Rebels and the Empire and the story of like Ezra and Hera and Sabine and all that. And obviously the Mandalorian stuff was really critical to Sabine's story, but I felt like as that show went on, it like branched out into all these different directions, where like, part of the season would be about the conflict on Mandalore, and, part of the season would be about the rebels and the Empire, and, it would just go in these different directions. And usually like, I don't know. I was like, just give me back to the heart of the show, which is what I really am here for, more so than like.
I don't think that's going to happen with the pirates, though. I don't think we're going to end up on like the pirate planet and like have like the warring factions of pirates and stuff. Like, I think it's just going to be like these interesting different characters who are now on the Colossus.
Yeah, if they just integrate those characters into like the primary storyline of of that, then that should be okay, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. And I guess there's the opportunity they could make Sonara more interesting to me, and kind of like win me over with her. But as far as season 1 goes, yeah, I don't know. It's just not my fave.
You'll come around.
Okay.
Sonara's good.
All right. Well, she is good. I mean, that's become clear. She's a good guy. So, that's put to rest. But
she's on the light side of history.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Another thing I noted here about that final sequence is like seeing Tora and Kaz helmeted in their fighters, like, in this like dogfight or whatever. It made me think, you know what? Like, we didn't get as many Top Gun and like pod racing type feelings from this season as I wish we could have, and like the show ended up probably being better than I really expected it to be. And the second half of the season ended up being just like awesome. Like, I love it. It's really, really good. But like seeing the original promo material for the show and like these blue skies and this beautiful ocean and like these ships cruising around, it was like, dude, this is going to be like some seriously like gorgeous, like Top Gun, like speed racer, pod racing, like just, I don't know. I felt like there could be some like fun racing stuff. And then there was a little bit in the beginning, but the show just does not have, it's not like where the show is going or what the show is really, so, which is fine because it's something different than I thought it would be. But a little more of that I think would have been cool in season 1, and especially now that they're leaving Castellan, I doubt that that's going to be a focus going forward. It doesn't seem like where the show is headed. So
I've kind of made my peace with like, that stuff isn't gonna happen in the show. Like, we're not going to get like the the hardcore racing elements, the F-Zero experience.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping I'm hoping, and I'd almost wager, like, I feel like this is just such a no-brainer that, to me, and I'm an idiot, but like, this is such a no-brainer that I think at Celebration we get something about the racers, and I could see an IDW Star Wars Adventures style, like, prequel to Resistance about the racers, like a, I don't know, 6-12 issue miniseries just about the racers. And I think that's like more likely as an IDW book with like that, so like super cartoony art style and stuff, like the house style for IDW Star Wars comics. I think that would be perfect. Or, and this is more of a long shot, but like we've talked about this so many times, the racer video game.
Yeah. As you started describing that, I was like, God, what if we could get the video game? That'd be so good.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Either way would be great. I think that'd be really fun. And so, yeah, you're totally right. Like, they could do a comic series that kind of gives us those vibes that we were kind of hoping for, that we didn't really get from the show necessarily. Or a game would be perfect. I didn't put it in the news because it basically got debunked, but not debunked isn't the right word, but there was a little bit of hubbub earlier in the week about Lucasfilms or LucasArts gaming division hiring again. It was basically like, well, we haven't gone. The excitement or the news part of it was like, oh wow, maybe they're like kind of spinning that back up. And then it turns out like, well, it never went away. You guys just didn't really know that it was still around.
Yeah.
But which, and I think a lot of people at Lucasfilm kind of presented that like, oh, you guys are dumb. Like, if you paid attention, you would have known. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, well, EA makes everything. They make barely anything. Most of it sucks except for Battlefront. And, everything else is just like crappy cell phone games. And, it really feels like LucasArts died and went away. So sorry, we're not like combing through people's LinkedIn pages and stuff to know that LucasArts is still around, but it basically feels like you sold the license to EA and EA makes the games and LucasArts is not very involved, and that's not to discredit any of the work that the people of LucasArts are doing, because like, if you look at a game like Battlefront, it's gorgeous. The storytelling in it is really good. And as far as like the respect to the Star Wars property goes, it's extremely strong. You know what I mean? Like, and I think that's essentially what LucasArts does now, is that's what it seems like, is that they work with the developers that are making Star Wars games to make sure the Star Wars elements of them are super solid. And I think they are doing an A+ job of that. As far as all that stuff goes, like, I never play a Star Wars game and feel like, oh yeah, well, they don't really respect the property, or they're not paying enough attention to the details and things like that. So as far as that all goes, they're doing a killer job. But one of the things that came from that story was that a lot of the job listings at LucasArts specifically mentioned Switch development. And I don't know if we're ever going to get any Star Wars games on Switch, but that was one of those things where I was like, if nothing else is really important or valid from this whole LucasArts, like, hiring story from earlier this week, the fact that like Switch development is mentioned in most of the job listings is, I think, hopefully, possibly a good sign for some Switch games. So I don't think we're going to hear anything at Celebration about a Nintendo Switch Star Wars Resistance racer game, but it would rival the Episode 9 and Phantom Menace panels for most exciting development from Star Wars Celebration for me, if they did. So.
Yeah, I think like something also that we saw, I don't even think we talked about it on the show, but like like a couple months ago, there was, I don't know if it was like a press release or like an article or something about plug and play versions of classic Star Wars games. And so like it was stuff like I don't even remember what was on there, but like the SNES games, like Shadows of the Empire, Rogue Squadron, stuff like that, like plug and play versions of those games, which I think was it At Games who was doing it,
Mm-hmm.
which is like not a great plug and play game machine maker. Those are like those like um, kind of crappy ones you see in like the you know electronics aisles at like Walmart and stuff that you're like, wow, this seems like a really good deal, and like it looks really cool, and then like you get it home and it like doesn't run how you remember.
Yeah.
But but the fact that like they're licensing um those games out for like these plug and play devices gives me hope that like those games will end up on um like Xbox Live and PSN and Nintendo eShop on the Switch, like that will get those games in other places as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be, I mean,
That
yes.
would be like enough for me right now. Like, um, just give me some like old Star Wars games on a console that I have hooked up.
Yeah. A collection, something like that would be great. So,
Yeah.
we'll see. Last thing on No Escape Part 2, rest in peace, Captain Von Reg. We hardly knew you, but the fabled red stormtrooper that was so exciting when we were first seeing, material from Resistance is in and out. So we still got the
He
gold.
was shot down by Kaz.
Yeah, by Cass. He was on Yeager's tail, and Cass shot him down, and that prompted Yeager to say, "Boy, that kid can really fly," or something like that. So
yeah,
that was emphasizing Kaz's prowess as a pilot there. So, and as a friend, Ryan, I think as well.
Yeah.
So a loyal friend. That was a good moment, but it wasn't much of a character. It's like the Boba Fett type thing. Sorry if that offends anybody, but Von Reg is essentially a cool costume, so more than a character.
Yeah,
so.
unfortunately, that's also what Phasma became in the sequel trilogy. Which, I mean, for better or worse, like they're just our characters like that in Star Wars that just look cool and get killed.
But I mean, even in this show, like I feel like Pyre is much more of an actual character than Von Reg was.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you can develop a character like this more. That I don't think Von Reg was really the one that they were aiming to do that with, which makes sense now that we see that he is toast at the end of this episode.
So he's like the only major character casualty in season 1.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I say he's a major character because like there's an action figure for him.
Like, which probably go out and get that action figure now if you want.
They're not going to be making any more for season 2.
No,
probably not. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. So, well, why don't we jump into talking about our predictions and hopes for season 2? I mean, we've pretty much wrapped up discussion of No Escape Part 1 and 2. So, the episode ends with them in hyperspace, traveling somewhere, except for it was supposed to be Dakar, where the Resistance base is, but Niku screwed up the hyperspace instructions or whatever, the map or the coordinates, and so he doesn't know where they're going. According to Niku, they could be either really close to Dakar or somewhere unfathomably far away from it.
Yes.
So we have no idea where they're going.
That was like an exciting and surprising moment too. I think like, because first you're like, oh, they're going to Dakar. Like, okay, I can predict 80 things that are going to happen right now. And then Nick is like, no, actually, we're not. And it's like, wow, okay, cool. Now I have no idea what's going to happen. And that's exciting.
Yeah, for sure. My feeling before the episode aired was like, I think they're going to go to Takodana, because Z and
Hype.
And Hype were there or went there, and it just kind of made sense that that's where they'd go. So now that they're not going there, I really have no idea where they might end up. I don't think they did. I mean, because we've only seen a couple planets in the sequel trilogy, and I don't think they're going to Jakku. I don't think they're going to Takodana at this point, although I guess they could. I don't think, they're not going to be going to Crate or, I mean, I don't know where they could be going really.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of questions. Okay, first of all, I want a one shot or 3 issue comic series of what happened with Hype and Aunt Z
Yeah,
and Takodana.
that'd be
Like,
awesome.
I want that.
Yeah.
I want that story. I will pay $4 American per issue for that.
Uh-huh.
I hope we get that. Now, I think there are some questions of like, what are the Colossus's abilities? As in, like, how long can it stay flying? Could it just be like a ship that's, just hanging out um, in space? Or does it need to like land somewhere? And does it need to like land in water? And I think like if it needs to land in water, like obviously like Jakku is
Yeah,
not gonna
that's off the
happen.
table. Yeah.
Takodana becomes like a like really a more probable candidate. And then or it could be like a totally new world like Castellan was.
You could, or could it be Batu?
It could be it could be Batu, I think. Like that it could be.
Yeah, I don't see why it couldn't be Batu, right? I mean, um, yeah, I, Batu is totally set in the sequel era. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
or it's not set; it's a planet that exists. But I mean, like all the storytelling around Batu seems to be set in the sequel era. Like we talked
Mm-hmm.
about that preview for the Delilah S. Dawson book. You know, that's like post. It seems like that story is taking place post Last Jedi. You know, so I guess that made it sound like though, like Leia sent Vi out there and she found Batu. So it'd be a little weird if like Kaz and everybody also found Batu at the same time or whatever. But
I think we're all going to be finding Batu in
in
2019.
2019, that's true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's well said, Ryan. That is definitely true. So yeah, I guess I don't know where they might end up going, but I think it is pretty exciting to not know. That being said, I would imagine that about 2 weeks from now, a little over 2 weeks from now, we will know.
Mm-hmm.
Like 2 weeks from tomorrow. Is that no? It can't be 2 weeks from tomorrow. 3 weeks from tomorrow. Whatever Monday of
Mm-hmm.
the Resistance panel. It must be 3 weeks from tomorrow, right? Yeah. Doesn't matter. Anyways, we're going to
Mm-hmm.
find out more about Resistance at the Resistance panel, the final day of Star Wars Celebration. And I can't imagine they could talk too much about season 2 without sort of saying this is where they go, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So we'll probably find out then. But
Yeah. I wonder if it'll I wonder if it'll be a place with like we're obviously talking about places with water, but I wonder if it'll be a place with space whales.
oh, I don't think so.
You know that's gonna happen.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that it will happen in the sense that they will tell an Ahsoka Ezra Thrawn story, but I don't think they'll try to shoehorn that into Resistance personally. And I really, really hope they don't. Like, very strongly hope they don't. Like, so strongly hope they don't. Like, please don't. If you're listening, just don't do that, please. Like, Resistance can be its own show. Like, it does not have to get tangled up in. Don't do that. Do not.
You are not stopping Dave Filoni from this.
No, but I
You
just
know
think
that's been the plan the whole time.
no. I think
It's
the
so
plan is
happening.
no. He's probably directing like a full on movie, animated movie for Disney Plus. Telling that story or creating a new series telling that story. I don't think it's going to be like a. I don't think so. I really hope not.
Yeah. I mean, I do like okay, so let's see. I'm trying to think about like the end of Rebels. It was just Thrawn and Ezra on that ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then a couple years later, then Ahsoka and Sabine head off to try to find him.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I would like to see like Sabine and Hera and Ahsoka like in the Resistance art style because I think they're like cool looking characters. But I don't. They'd be like super old.
Well, I mean, yeah, sort of. They'd be about the same age as Luke Skywalker. Ahsoka would be
Yeah.
older than that, I think. Ahsoka would be super old.
Yeah.
But Sabine and Ezra are essentially this, same age as Luke. So they'd be
What is Ahsoka's race? Tortunga?
yeah, Tortuga, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, like she's a Shakti.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know like what their lifespans and everything are,
Right.
and like how
Yeah.
they age. I don't think we've ever seen an old one.
It would be weird though for a humanoid species like that, or like I don't know if you'd call them a humanoid species or not, but uh, I think so. For a species like that to like age at a really different rate than like human characters do, because I just feel like there'd be some cognitive dissonance seeing like Ahsoka look like she's still like 25 years old, but then Sabine and Ezra are like in their 60s, or like late 50s or whatever. Like I just feel like that would seem strange. Like Ahsoka was frozen in time and they weren't. And you can do that with a Wookiee or something, but I don't know if you can do that with like a humanoid type character.
Yeah. Well, we'll find out in season 2 of
I
Resistance.
don't think we will. I don't think we will.
Also, like the Chiss Thrawn, like how's he gonna age?
Yeah, that's another good question. I don't know. But I'll tell you what, here's how we could handle it. Just not having it take place in the Resistance timeline. You know what I mean? And I don't personally ever need to see that story myself, but I know that it's going to be told, so that's fine.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to be told in Resistance.
I mean, I think the bigger question is, how does Maul fit into all of this?
All right. I'm thinking maybe we've reached the end of this episode as Ryan is now just entered into trying to make me mad territory. So that's probably going to do it. We'll no doubt be talking about where season 2 is going in a couple of weeks.
Maybe Maul could have like his lower half replaced with like a giant bee stinger and he could be like flying around.
Mm-hmm.
What about that?
If you're interested in guest hosting the episode where we talk about Resistance season 2 with me, since Ryan is just here to to troll me, let me know. No, we'll be talking about season 2, I'm sure, going forward. So
yeah, I'm excited. Like it was in some ways like I wasn't surprised because I think like the show did like a really good job of like drip feeding the clues, but like I wasn't disappointed because like I felt like everything happened the way it should, which is like kind of weird, but like I was like, oh yeah, that actually was really well put together. Like, and I do think it ended season 1 on a really strong note. And I think like the show has been like its absolute strongest for like, I don't know, like the last 8 episodes. And I feel like we're in a really good place going into season 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I wouldn't even say fear, but I think what they need to do if they want to make the show kind of catch on with more and more Star Wars fans is I'm okay with like how they decided to structure season 1, which was like sort of these like world building episodes about different characters that were pretty low stakes, but there were so many of those, for the first part of season 1, and that was really what the show was built around. I think they need to just like keep their foot on the gas pedal, so to speak, in season 2, in terms of like having the focus of the show be more on the issues that people care about and less on like, well, we're going to introduce like some blonde haired, skeezy potential friend of Kaz, and he'll end up stabbing Kaz in the back, but it won't have any other like consequence to the larger plot of the show or anything like that.
You
like,
don't know that.
They
that
can't
dude
do
could come back as like a first order officer in season
well, he's
2.
voiced by Elijah Wood, so I'm sure he will. But like my point is just that like I just don't want it to, because you don't know a lot of the episodes in the first half of season 1. You didn't really know why they mattered or what was important about them so much, and they were still enjoyable to watch and everything. But it just like I felt much less compelled to make sure I was watching as soon as I could with a lot of the episodes in season 1. I mean, you didn't even watch a lot of them until you had to like catch up on it because you were just like not really feeling it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so now that we're hooked and we're really into the show, I just hope that they don't go back to too many episodes like that feel really low stakes. Obviously, you don't have to maintain the tension level of like the last 5 episodes of season 2 because you can't always be there, but I think it needs to be more focused on the First Order and on the Resistance and that kind of thing, and less on sort of like, let's just drop in little elements of different sorts of things that will bring together in the end. It needs to feel like it matters more throughout, and I think it will. I think that it was about establishing the show in the first half of season 1, and now that the show is established, like hopefully we'll get a better sort of balance in terms of how the episodes and the seasons are structured and laid out. So
yeah, agreed.
Cool. Okay, well, let's wrap it up here, and we will be back next week with some more discussion, no doubt, of Celebration, but then other things happening in the world of Star Wars. We also have a special episode, I think, coming up sometime next week as well, which, well, maybe that'll be next week's episode. But we have something cooking here pretty soon for next week.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. So we have something fun coming up that way, and then we're going to be very closely approaching Star Wars Celebration, and we're going to be having hella episodes releasing during that period of time. So that should be really, really fun and content overload as far as the Blockade Runner podcast goes. Until then, you can follow everything we do at blockaderunnerpodcast.com. Please email us and let us know what you're thinking, questions, comments, feedback, show topics, whatever, at blockaderunnerpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the show on Twitter at Blockade Run. And Ryan, you are on Twitter at
Brandwarf, BRAWNDWARF.
And all that stuff. Oh, Blockade Runner t-shirts and sweatshirts and stuff like that. We have a new logo. And skate deck. Yeah. Blockade Runner. Okay. Threadless.blockaderunnerpodcast.com, I believe, is the address. It will be in the show notes. But we put together a bit of a new logo that I think looks a little better on a t-shirt than our previous sort of logo type thing that we had. We still have, but we have a new logo. Looks pretty good on a shirt, I think. I ordered my hoodie last night, so I'll be rocking that at Star Wars Celebration. But you can order stickers, t-shirts, hoodies, long sleeve shirts, all that kind of stuff. We do have a skateboard deck you could order. I don't expect anybody to, but that does exist. I have not activated the fanny pack option, but I'm thinking about it. So
I will order one if you activate that.
Yeah, if you
I will wear it all. I will wear it all Celebration.
If you think we should do a fanny pack, comment on Twitter or on the episode on YouTube, or email us and let us know if you think we should do a fanny pack. But only if you're going to buy one. You know what I mean? I want to know if anybody would actually spend actual money on a Blockade Runner fanny pack. You let us know.
I would.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. Anyways, hopefully those shirts will be coming in soon our way. My way, because I ordered one, and I'm excited to see what they look like. So we'll post up some pictures of the actual product when they come in. But yeah, that's going to do it. So thanks very much for watching and or listening, and we will see you soon.